Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/BestOf for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Lucy Aria Rose, and their tagline is, "I'm keeping the garlic." The original OP is Throw RA Vanilla Sister. Posted to r/relationship advice and r/am I the asshole, July 23rd, 2024. This one includes a recent update. My 23 female sister, 30 female, is upset I babysit for my friend's 23 male and 22 female baby over her nightmare kid. How can I get my family to understand that her kid is a nightmare? I'm a 23-year-old child-free woman. I don't know if this is needed for the story, and my sister is 30 with a 4-year-old son. She's a single mom, ex-husband is not in the picture, and has no contact with her or the kid. I'm gonna get straight to the point. That kid is a nightmare to be around. It's not his fault, it's my sister's fault. He very clearly has behavioral and mental health disorders, even at his young age. However, my sister was, and is, very ableist and refuses to accept that her son has problems. The kid screams bloody murder whenever something doesn't slightly go his way, screams and cries when he's overwhelmed, has meltdowns to certain sounds and textures. Like I said, I don't blame the kid for these issues, but my sister refusing to get him treatment or help makes the kid a nightmare to be around. So, as a result, I don't babysit the kid when my sister asks, more like demands I do so. This causes a lot of fights between us and our family. I have a friend, 23 male, who's married to a wonderful lady, age 22, and they have a baby boy together, who just turned 1. Yes, they got married and had him young, but it's not my place to judge them. This past weekend, they asked me to babysit for them, and I agreed for a few reasons. Their kid is calm, well-behaved, and a general good kid toddler baby to be around. I love babysitting him. Also, they asked me nicely and understood that I might say no because I'm child-free. They were polite about their request. A thing about me is that if you ask me to do something politely, even if it's something I wouldn't usually agree to, I'd probably do it because you were nice and polite. So for these reasons, I happily agreed to babysit the boy. My sister also asked me to babysit her son that day so she could have a day to herself, and I refused and told her I was already babysitting for my friends. She was pissed, to say the least. She said a few comments about how I was an ass and not a good sister, but I thought she dropped it after that. This past weekend, while I was watching the baby, my sister started banging on my door. I looked through the window and saw that she had her kid in a care bag with her, and I knew she was trying to drop him off and make me babysit. She was banging on the door, yelling at me and calling me heartless and a baby hater, while I was holding a baby. Ironic. And that I better open up and do my sisterly duties. I put the baby in a different room to keep him from getting scared by the noise and told my sister through the window to leave, or I would call the cops. She started cursing for a solid 5 minutes before she finally left. I had the whole thing on my doorbell camera and sent it to the family group chat. Surprisingly, my whole family is on my sister's side. She keeps arguing with me about how I'd rather babysit a kid not even related to me over my nephew. I reminded her that her kid is a nightmare to be around, but she keeps saying that for family, you help out. My sister has been cold since and keeps sending me text messages to provoke me into arguing with her more. She's also started saying some pretty ableist and nasty things towards my friend's wife. My friend's wife is on the spectrum and has BPD, and my sister keeps saying that she should have been sterilized and never should have passed her issues to her kid. By the way, her kid has shown none of the signs that autistic infants usually show, so I don't know what my sister is on. I will admit that I do feel a bit guilty because I never considered babysitting my nephew, but I jumped at the opportunity to babysit my friend's kid. My sister, dad, 66, mom, 64, and brother, 33, are all calling me an asshole and saying that I'm just using the child-free label to avoid family responsibility. I need advice on how to get my family to see my perspective on this. How can I explain to them that the issue isn't the idea of babysitting, but it's the behavior of the kid? I'm just gonna, before we get to the comments, insert my opinion. Have them babysit. Why aren't they babysitting? Like, she's showing up unannounced expecting you to watch her child at a moment's notice. That's not fucking fair. And in addition to that, she's doing a massive disservice to her son by not getting him diagnosed. He is going to struggle and not understand why, because his mother is just choosing that, oh, if the diagnosis isn't there, then there's no problems to be seen. Ugh. Relevant comments. There were lots, but I tried to include a sampling. Commenter, just ignore your sister, maybe even block her. She isn't entitled to you as a babysitter. As for your family, black kettle them. So when are you babysitting sister kiddo, since family should care for family? OP responds, my brother, 33, which I should have mentioned, has a wife and kids, so he can't babysit, and my parents are in their early mid-60s, also probably should have mentioned, and claim to be too old to do so. I'm the youngest, and was a whoops baby my parents had in their 40s by chance. Because of my young age and the fact I'm not married and don't have kids, they keep saying I'm the perfect person to babysit because I have nothing to do. Not even taking into consideration that I have a job and friends of my own. OP responded to the question, why can't your brother take care of him if he already has experience with his own kids? OP, in the words of my family, he already has his own family responsibility. You have none. Yes, that's pretty much always their response to when I ask why can't my brother babysit the kid. My brother also deep down knows the kid is a nightmare, even as much as he tries to ignore it along with my sister and parents. To a different commenter. His kids don't like spending time with her kid because he's had violent meltdowns and hurt them before. The kids avoid that boy like the plague. I don't blame any of the kids in that situation. My sister's son clearly has behavioral and/or mental issues that cause him to react violently to overstimulation, which is not his fault. He needs help so he can develop ways of controlling his meltdowns. I don't know if that's the right phrase, and keep his emotions in check. My brother's kids, while mature for their age, are kids and don't fully understand why he acts the way he does, and therefore harbor resentment and dislike towards him. I feel bad for all the kids involved. Nobody is winning. OP responding to the idea of mute the group chat and contact experts for advice for your nephew. I've muted the group chat, and I know this is a me issue, but I can't help but check on it every few hours and feel bad about causing a fight. I'm soft, I know. As for my nephew, I don't mean to sound rude, but what good would that do? Yes, I can have an expert weigh in their opinion, but at the end of the day, my sister won't get him help. So what would be the point? Once again, I don't mean to be rude. Commenter, part of a longer comment. If she plans to send her child to public school, her neglect will become extremely obvious when he is unable to manage himself, and she tells mandated reporters she refuses to get him the help he needs. OP responds, this issue already came up. He's close to turning 5, and last school year, he was supposed to be in preschool. He was enrolled, and of course, the workers/teachers noticed his issues right away and tried to convince my sister to sign him up for the special education department program in the preschool and for behavioral therapy. She outright refused, went off on them, and pulled her kid from the program. He's going to start kindergarten in the fall, and my sister said if they insult her son, she'll pull him out and homeschool him. I feel bad for my nephew because it's not his fault. He was born with these issues that cause him to act out when he gets overwhelmed. I sincerely hope my sister wakes up and gets him help, or that once he grows up, he'll get help himself. OP responding to the question, does the family know the kid is a nightmare? They know the child is a nightmare. They keep trying to pretend he's not and ignore the issue, but they know. They don't want to piss my sister off by mentioning it, as she goes nuclear with insults and fights whenever someone brings it up. I love my family, I love my nephew, and I love my sister, but it is so wrong to just ignore the issues he has. He needs help. There is something wrong in his head. I'm not saying that to be mean or cruel or ableist in any form, but it's the truth. OP responds to a longer comment. I really hope I wasn't offensive with my wording. It feels wrong to say this kid has things wrong with him in his head or he's messed up in the head, but I genuinely don't know how else to describe it. I really don't phrase it that way to be mean or ableist or any kind of ist or phobic, but that's the only way I can think of to describe it without a diagnosis. I don't know how much CPS would help. We live in a small town in the South. I don't even know if CPS has an office down in our town/district. The nearest town over is a rundown city with a high crime rate, child abandonment rate, and drug use rate, so I can imagine that the CPS offices there are probably overwhelmed. Sounds like she has mental health issues too. I don't want to speculate, but I don't think she does. I think she's just ableist towards mental health disorders specifically. I'm not saying that mentally ill people can't also be prejudiced towards others with disorders and mental illnesses, but she doesn't show any signs of having any mental illness, so I don't think she has any. I could always be wrong, as I'm not a therapist or doctor, but this is just my perspective from growing up with her. Commenter. Maybe when he's too much for everyone else in your family and she really has no help at all, she will take steps to get her son the guidance he needs. OP responds, my parents used to try and tell her this when he was a smaller toddler and showing these behaviors. They were more tame then and have escalated as he got older. She blew up, said that if they keep insulting her kids, she wouldn't let them see him again. Obviously, I can't imagine the position that put my parents in. They love their child and grandchildren, so I can imagine a threat like that would make them cave. The sister's point of view. The problem is my sister doesn't want him to be diagnosed with anything. She has this belief that kids are overdiagnosed as a way for pharmaceutical companies and hospitals to get more money out of the parents and insurance companies. And I agree to an extent that we do have an issue of over-medicalization in our country, and that we tend to slap pills and medication over the problem rather than find a way to actually resolve it. However, that doesn't mean I think that medication isn't the solution in some cases. I don't know what would help my nephew, but I'm pretty sure that doing nothing is worse for him. OP's family and their views. My parents and brother don't share the same beliefs about mental illness that she does, and I was in no way raised in any way that could even remotely cause that belief. I'm still shocked, angry, and horrified. She said that about my friend's wife. I almost feel like I need to address it in itself. She literally said my friend should be sterilized and prevented from having kids because she has a mental illness. I can't even begin to wrap my mind around how cruel someone has to be to say that to a woman who's always wanted to be a mom and is a great mom, that they should be sterilized simply because she has a mental illness. A few last clarifications from OP. 1. My sister makes enough money to live comfortably with her and her son. Hiring a sitter would put a bit of a strain on that. They're in that financial bracket where they're comfortable, but they can't afford expensive things or afford to pay for extra things. I guess you could say they're low middle class. 2. According to them, they are, parents being too old. My mom retired early from a state job and has a part-time easy job, and my dad is still working a different state job for a few more years. 3. My sister's ex isn't the dad. My sister has red-brown hair. Her husband had brown hair. Kid came out with very light blonde hair. My family didn't see this as odd because I have very light white-looking blonde hair color, and one of my nieces also has blonde hair. So we just figured my sister carried the recessive gene. Husband wasn't suspicious of anything either, until sister broke down in a panic at the blonde hair and confessed that while they had been in a short break after a fight, she had slept around a bit. Husband left because he didn't agree to opening the marriage during the break and didn't sign the birth certificate. Sister has no idea who the father is and has no way to get in contact with any of the guys she slept with. Update, July 26th, 2024, 3 days later. So, shit has hit the fan. My original post was about 3 days ago, and ever since that post, my sister's behavior escalated. I tried to talk to her about getting help for my nephew, and she kept screaming at me every time I brought it up. She said a lot of derogatory terms towards people with mental illnesses and mental disabilities, terms I won't repeat here. That wasn't the only escalation. She was at my door several times a day starting 2 days ago, the day after I made my original post, banging on my door, screaming, crying, cursing, the works. She brought my nephew each time, and he always looked so confused and defeated. He was too tired to react or melt down like he normally does around loud noises, and it broke my heart to see that on my doorbell camera. I wasn't at my house. I was crashing with my friend and his wife. I took the advice of a commenter who said to put some physical distance between me and my sister. They said I was free to stay as long as I wanted, as long as I helped out with some house chores and childcare while I stayed, which I thought was more than fair. So I'm staying in their guest room currently. I'm still with them, even though my sister isn't much of a problem. Many will be glad to know that my sister won't have parental rights over my nephew soon. She dropped him off at a safe haven site in the middle of the night. Totally a fun phone call to wake up to at 2 in the morning. And my nephew is currently with my parents. Social services placed him with my parents, and he's set to have mandatory therapy. In my state, don't know if it's different in others, if a child is abandoned in any way, safe haven or not, a physical and mental health examen is done. Other than being a little bit underweight, my nephew was physically healthy. He wasn't being physically abused like a few people were worried, but it was obvious he needed mental health. So he'll be starting therapy sessions soon, as mandated by a caseworker. We're not looking for my sister. After she dropped her son off, she left. She had quit her job a few weeks back, sold her car, and even her house a few weeks ago and had been renting a place, so this was planned. In my personal opinion, she planned to abandon her son the day I was babysitting my friend's baby, which is why she had such a nuclear reaction. She did leave a note, saying she can't do it anymore. She met someone, and that she doesn't want to be a mom to my nephew anymore. In her note, she said that she deserves a normal kid, and not a burden like my nephew. I seriously hope that my sister doesn't have any more kids with this mystery person she's referencing, but it seems like she's running off to start a new life and family. She still has 30 days to reclaim rights over my nephew, but it doesn't look like she'll do that. Time will tell. Like I said, I'm still with my friends because I was worried my sister would do something. My parents and brother have also been blowing up my phone and coming to my house, switching between apologies and blaming me for this. They think that maybe if I babysat that day, she wouldn't have done this, but I think she wanted me to babysit so she could do this. I'm not mad at them for blaming me. I understand that my sister is still their family and they're rightfully in shock and want someone to blame. They're human, and I know humans can be cruel sometimes while going through shock and grief. So yeah, that's life right now. I'm currently sitting on the couch with my friend's baby while my friend is at work and his wife does a quick grocery run. She was going to take the baby, but I insisted on watching him, so she didn't have to hassle with the car seat in the very stormy weather we have in our area right now. This update is all over the place. I feel like I'm rambling. There's a lot of unknown stuff regarding my sister and nephew, but for now, this is the update. I don't know if I'll post more regarding the situation. My friend's wife is telling me I should relax and just not think about anything relating to this until I'm more level-headed. But I don't think that's possible. Relevant comments. Commenter. Your sister clearly has her own severe mental health issues she is refusing to acknowledge. As fucked up as it might have been, this is the best for your nephew. Also, I didn't know you could just drop off a child of any age at a place like that. I thought any child over 2 couldn't be released like that. OP responds, I don't know my state laws, so I don't know, because I'm not directly involved in the case. I'm not getting updates. When I say we're not looking for her, I mean me and my family. Police could be looking for her, but I'm out of the loop on this whole case. Update post 2, August 6th, 2024, 11 days later. Would I be the asshole for forgiving but not forgetting my family for blaming me for what my sister did? My sister abandoned her 5-year-old son a little less than 2 weeks ago and fled. Police are looking for her, but she hasn't been found yet. My nephew is with my parents and is in therapy. When that first happened, my parents were quick to blame me because I had refused to babysit the kid in the past, and the weekend before my sister ultimately abandoned him. They think if I had babysat him that day, she wouldn't have fled. I've been staying with my friends since then, and oh my god, it's chill here. They're young parents with a baby, and yet it's chill here. Everyone is happy, they talk things out when there's issues, they work together. I've met both parents of my friends, and they're nice and polite. Obviously, I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but I've seen some bickering, and they always find a way to resolve it. Growing up, my parents always argued a lot. My siblings were always loud and cruel to each other at times, and there always had to be someone to blame. If you were the person who was blamed, you were insulted and shunned for a while. Then they would apologize. You were always expected to forgive and forget. My parents are trying to apologize to me about their blowout at me regarding my sister, and I can understand their initial feelings. I'm willing to forgive, but I know my family will also expect me to forget. But I can't forget. I don't think I can forget this whole situation. So, I'm wondering if I would be the asshole if I chose to forgive them, but refuse to forget this whole thing. New update post, April 29th, 2025, 8.5 months later. Title, Am I the asshole for spending the exact amount of money I claimed I didn't have? I'm about done with this whole BS and ready to just completely cut contact with my family after this whole mess. My sister got arrested a few months ago on several charges, including child endangerment/abandonment and drug charges. She's been court-ordered to go to an inpatient rehab, but our state doesn't pay for it, which means that she has to pay for it. She does not have a job and has little to no savings after burning through them on some drug bender. I work remotely and have a pretty decent income for my field and area. My parents are saying that I need to pitch in and help pay for the rehab because they and my brother and his wife are also paying a portion, and if I contribute, then they won't need to pay as much because it'll be split 5 ways instead of 4. Here's where I think I'm definitely the asshole. I asked my parents for the exact amount they wanted me to contribute. It was a fairly decent amount, I could afford it, but I was feeling petty after everything with my sister. My best friend recently had her second baby, yay, and I decided to take the exact amount my parents requested from me and spent it on getting my friend some extra baby supplies. Toys, decorations, clothes, and a few early Mother's Day gifts. When my mom texted me and asked for the money, I sent a picture of my shopping spree for my friend and said I had already spent the money on a proper mom. She called me an asshole and said I could have just said no and not give them hope I would pay. So Reddit, am I the asshole? I think I am, but I feel justified. Edit, title might be confusing. I told them I had the money, then after they got their hopes up, I said I didn't have it anymore, because I spent it on someone else. Sorry for the confusion. OP's comment. Britray16, not the asshole for not giving the money, you're the asshole for lying then mocking. OP responds, yeah, I can admit that. I'm just so fed up with them trying to get me to cover my sister's irresponsible ass. With the context of the entire story behind it, I'm going to say justified asshole, considering the fact that when her sister decided to abandon her child, the family's response was to blame OP for her sister's actions and not hold the sister accountable for the shit she was doing. Not to mention her sister's despicable mindset of seeing her child as broken merchandise and literally just dropping him off and deciding, not my problem anymore. Which means that she knew that he needed mental health help, but opted not to because she didn't want the label of that, and she sees anyone with any kind of neurological disorder as being broken merchandise, which is disgusting. It's also a shame that OP's family was willing to throw them under the bus to placate their sister's unwillingness to get their child diagnosed or tested for anything, to the point where they were just willing to put up with it and deal with that child's life being at risk for them having a miserable time at school because of her refusal and her view that any sort of mental disability means that you're broken, that you should be sterilized. It's gross. So yeah, I'm also not even shocked that they scooped her up and caught her on drug charges. There is certainly a lot going on here, and she certainly needs a lot of help, but that is not OP's responsibility to help her. And I also 100% agree with the theory that her entire idea of dropping her son off just at her sister's house on a moment's notice was because she fully intended to just disappear. Maybe deep down she knew that her sister would give her son a better life than she ever could. But that's not OP's responsibility, and it's not the sister's choice to make that for her sister. This post was collected by DreckCaterpillar77, and their tagline is, Satan is not a pogo stick. The original OP is U/intestate frigate. Originally posted to r/legaladvice and r/internetparents. Posted October 21st, 2017. What crimes did my wife commit? My wife came to me on Friday and asked if I had spoken to our daughter recently. I told her I had not, but asked why she wanted to know. She said, I got a phone call from our daughter and she's threatening to sue us for money, her clothes and the car. I asked my wife what money she's thinking of suing us for, and my wife said that she moved $4,500 from my daughter's checking account into a trust account that my daughter cannot touch until she's 21. I asked my wife if her name was on the account. She said, I was there when she opened it. Which, what the fuck are you thinking? I told her that was identity theft. She said, no, she gave me the PIN when we opened the account. Okay then, that makes no sense. I then checked my email and my daughter says that my wife used a forged check to take all the money out of her account. The total was indeed $4,500. My daughter says that she has the proof the check was forged. I'm thinking that, at a minimum, my wife can be charged with identity theft, forgery, and fraud. Am I wrong in thinking that this would be a second-class felony under Pennsylvania law because of the amount involved? Relevant comments. Fnary. You are correct in that your wife has fucked up, forged bank instruments to fraudulently withdraw funds, and quite possibly done worse. Your daughter needs to run her credit ASAP. There may be other surprises waiting in the wings that you don't know about. You and your wife need to return this money. If you put $4,500 into a trust for your daughter, that's great. You still need to put $4,500 back into her checking account. Beyond that, clothes that you bought for your daughter are going to be hers. If the car is titled in your name, it's your car. If it's titled in hers, it's her car. This sounds like some manner of dispute is happening between your wife and your daughter. If that's the case, it's about to get much uglier if you don't fix this ASAP. And you are not going to win. OP responds, I have absolutely no misgivings about the fact that what my wife did was absolutely wrong on every level imaginable. The money has not gone into any of my accounts. I am 99% sure that my wife opened a new account in her name only and had it receive the money from my daughter's account. I had told my wife to return the money, and she refuses to do so unless my daughter communicates with her. Derspinny comments, quote, my wife said that she moved $4,500 from my daughter's checking account into a trust account. Who originally deposited that money into your daughter's checking account, and why? Quote, she gave me the PIN when we opened the account. That may have been against your daughter's agreement with the bank, but it doesn't automatically authorize your wife to make use of the funds in the account. Quote, my wife used a forged check to take all the money out of her account. Even if your wife had legitimate access to the account herself, forging a check in your daughter's name would be a fairly serious crime. If the money was originally your wife's, then it would be a good idea to return it, since there's some fairly strong evidence that the way your wife went about moving it may have been unlawful. If the money was originally your daughter's, such as from her own paychecks or from gifts to her, then your wife absolutely needs to return the money immediately. I would strongly recommend that you have a come-to-Jesus conversation with your wife about respecting your daughter's personal boundaries as an adult, and that taking your daughter's money and locking it away is completely unacceptable regardless of why she did it. She's exposed both of you to some legal risks, and she's behaved exceptionally badly towards her daughter. If this is a habit for her, then you may want to inspect your own finances closely as well. OP responds, as far as I know, the money is a combination of excess scholarship cash and a student loan. It was absolutely my daughter's money. I've told my wife that the fact that she has a PIN does not give her the right to use it. My wife has a very serious issue with respecting boundaries. I have had many conversations with my wife regarding her inability to respect boundaries. If my daughter speaks to an attorney, I will answer any and all questions as honestly as I can. If any criminal charges come of this, then it's high time my wife face the music. I hate to say that, but it's the only way some people learn. Update. Apparently, there were 4 checks issued to withdraw all of the money. A local police department has attempted to contact my wife, but she did not answer the call because she did not recognize the number. My wife says that if my daughter files a suit, she will file a counterclaim for emotional distress in the amount of $5,000. She says that she has a therapist who is willing to testify as to the devastating emotional stress my daughter has caused her. She also says that she will hire an attorney while my daughter will be stuck with a free attorney who doesn't do anything. I have kept my daughter informed and she is unperturbed by my wife's threats. I have told my daughter that I will speak to any authority and will not lie on behalf of any party. I am well aware of the fact that my wife needs professional help. Our pastor advised her to seek mental help. Her parents asked her to seek mental help. Her children asked her to seek mental help. I have asked her to seek mental help. She says that she is seeing a therapist, but she will not provide me with a name and says that she is paying for it out of pocket. I cannot force her to get mental help unless she is acutely homicidal or acutely suicidal. If I could go down the block to the courthouse at lunchtime and get her put on a 72-hour hold for being a jerk, I'd do that. Update 2. My wife seems shocked that the police would investigate this for free. My wife believes that police investigating a crime is a waste of taxpayer money. My wife now wants to go to family counseling. I told her that our daughter would not agree to that, and she said then she won't get her money. Relevant comments. Malraza. None of this makes sense. Give the money back. From what I can make out, it sounds very likely your wife committed the crimes you list, and possibly more. OP responds, if you knew my wife, I could tell you this story and leave out the fact that the perpetrator was my wife, and you'd say, your wife did this thing, didn't she? When a deleted commenter told OP to grow a spine and leave. 5 years ago, my wife suffered an aneurysm. 3 years ago, perimenopause kicked in. Also 3 years ago, my oldest daughter moved out. At some point, paranoia and insecurity crept into her brain, but up until 2 months ago, she still got along with my youngest, the youngest of course being the person whose money was taken. I suppose a man with a spine would have left after the aneurysm. Maybe he would have waited a bit and left after menopause kicked in. Certainly, he should have left after his wife began to ask why he was bugging her phone and computer, right? Men with spines don't stick it out and hope that women they married will get better. Men with spines just fucking leave. Update, November 3rd, 2017, 13 days later. Update, docket sheet has gone up on the PA Unified Judicial System website. She has not yet been arrested. 3rd-degree felony. Access device issued to another who did not authorize use. 18 Section 4106, subsection A1. Penalty is up to 7 years in prison and or up to $15,000 in fines. 1st-degree misdemeanor, theft by unlawful taking. Movable property. 18 Section 3921, subsection A. Penalty is up to 5 years in prison and a minimum fine of $1,500 up to $10,000. I'm sure there could have been more charges. Hopefully they will let her plead down to some lesser offense, slap her with a hefty fine, and make her pay restitution. Hopefully, she will learn a lesson. Editor's note. Final update was a comment on someone else's post 2 years ago. Final update, August 19th, 2019, nearly 2 years later. First, you earn that scholarship money, not your mom. Your mom is a controlling, well, it rhymes with ditch. I'm sorry you're going through this. Second, my wife did to our daughter almost the same thing. Account was in my daughter's name only though. That your mother did to you, and for pretty much the same reason. Links to the previous post. Eventually my wife was charged with a felony and a misdemeanor. I got to pay approximately $4,000 to hire a defense attorney. My daughter got her money back and asked the state to drop the charges, which my wife spun as a victory on her own part. My wife's bad actions were a very serious factor in my decision to file for divorce last year. I can't have my wife trying to control my daughter's lives and expecting me to defend her when she's called out. That is quite the update, and that's also a shame that OP was put into that position. And it sounds like he kind of ran out of rope with how much he was willing to tolerate what his wife was doing to his daughter, and finding out that she pretty much found it as a victory of, yeah, we won in the end, when dealing with this, sucks. Like, I don't blame him, because he was married to someone who stole from their daughter, was ending up with criminal charges that could have landed them in prison. The daughter decided to drop the charges, got her money back, and the wife saw that as a win for sending everyone through hell and costing her husband $4,000 for attorney fees, when all of that could have just been fucking handled if she just gave the money back. And it's a shame too, because he stuck by his wife for as long as he realistically could. And in the end, he got fucking burned by it. Also, I just want to roll back to the fact that the wife stated that if the daughter files a lawsuit, she'll counterclaim for emotional distress for $5,000 because she has a therapist who, by the way, she couldn't even name the therapist. Like, this was pretty much her talking out of her ass because, like, the husband literally never saw a single bill for the therapist and also was never given a name, and it was just kind of, yeah, I have a therapist, but, you know, they go to a different school, who apparently would be able to testify on the aspect that there's emotional distress involved for them committing a felony. You committed a felony and had consequences, and that's the emotional distress you're gonna sue for? It's not how that works. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Bear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code EYES at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.